Morning, everyone. Happy Monday to you guys. I hope you guys are having a wonderful start to your weekdays, to your brand new week. Welcome to welcome to a brand new edition of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Jumping right into it here, we had an unbelievably stacked weekend of basketball, stacked weekend of conference finals play. Finally got our first full weekend of NBA conference play. The final four of the NBA is set in stone, and one unbelievable weekend it was. We saw a game. We saw two game threes. We're seeing the start of game fours tonight, and we'll recap and preview all of the action that transpired over the last couple days. Starting first things first, we have to talk about the Indiana Pacers New York Knicks battle that took place in Indiana last night. Indiana, honestly, we have to give. Well, no, we can't start with Indiana because obviously the Knicks won that game, making it a 2-1 series. Indiana still in the lead, in that one, but the Knicks taking game three, and honestly, what was an unbelievable rally. A rally down 20 points in the first half, a game where it looked like the Indiana Pacers were going to trounce the New York Knicks at one point, going up by 20 plus in the second quarter, just going on an unbelievable run. But the New York Knicks stuck with it. They stayed in the game, and to be able to play the way they did down the stretch, we'll recap that game to start off the show. From there, we'll also go over to the game three between the Timberwolves and Thunder on Saturday night. Discuss what happened in that game. The Timberwolves pretty much putting a good beat down on the Oklahoma City Thunder in Minnesota. So we'll recap what happened in that game as well as preview who would benefit more from a win tonight in Game 4 between those two teams. From there, we'll switch gears back over to the Pacers Knicks series, discuss if there's any cause to pause for the Pacers after last night's loss, and then we'll also discuss the Celtics offseason plans. We're still seeing Jaylen Brown being discussed, still considering offseason surgery on his knee, on his ACL. He had a partially torn ACL at the end of the playoffs. We'll discuss everything that has gone down in Boston as well and give an update on their off-season plans. But, yeah, before I move any further, as always, I'd like to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC Sports Network content. Also, we get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show, so to ensure that your question gets read on air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net. This puts your question at the top of the list so that I see it. It also really helps out the show. Again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net for all your questions and comments. But let's get right back into it here because we have an unbelievably packed show today. I'm so serious. I know I've said it before on the show. I know the first two rounds of the playoffs are usually the more interesting ones because there's more stuff going on. There's more games. There's more competitiveness. The different matchups, everything happening at once, the chaos of it is what draws people in. At least that's how it was for me growing up. That's how I fell in love with the game. It was always the first two rounds that I would watch almost every single game and just go game to game to game. Like, especially in the first round, there used to be 4 games per day on the weekends. So, obviously, the conference finals, it's the final four. It's the 4 best teams left in the NBA playoffs. The four teams left standing. And both matchups have been unbelievable. Seriously. Last night we saw the Pacers and Knicks go at it. Each game of that series has been unbelievable. Game 1 was picture perfect. Game 2, Pacers took care of business more profoundly and they made a more decisive win. But even then, it went down to the final seconds of that game. And then Game 3. My goodness, was Game 3 a phenomenal game. Game 3, if it wasn't for Game 1, Game 3 would be the best game of the series so far, hands down. The problem is Game 1 was just the best playoff game of the NBA playoffs so far. That's the problem with that. But what a phenomenal game we saw last night. The Knicks coming back from 20 points down. I'm not joking when I say 20 points down. This game, it was what was it? It was 13-7 early on, and before the Pacers went on a run to take the lead, 16-13. And then from there, it was honestly just like the game was over. It was over so quickly, or not over so quick, but the lead bloomed so quickly. It just felt like the Pacers grabbed the momentum and did not let it go. And when I say momentum, I mean in every single way. On the defensive end, forcing turnovers, drawing offensive fouls. On the offensive end, hitting their shots from three, using their depth, using their speed. It was a hands down, all around unbelievable performance from the Indiana Pacers. What it looked like it was going to be, it looked like it was going to be a blowout in the second quarter. The Pacers were up by 20 points in the second quarter. Indiana screaming. Halliburton sticking out his chest, pointing his jersey up at the rafters, pointing at Reggie Miller. Reggie Miller going crazy on the telecast. It looked like the Pacers were going to win this game, not only just win it, but blow out the New York Knicks. That's what it looked like. It felt like, if you guys were watching the game, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. It felt like the Knicks were getting stuffed. They were getting smothered. They couldn't muster any offense. If you watch the game, the way that the Pacers were playing defense, they went out past the three-point line, picking up every New York Knicks player from half court, and it just looked like there was nothing that the Knicks could do. They looked like they were dead in the water, and Pacers on the other side forcing turnovers, getting in transition, being able to shoot the ball that they were. The lead picked up really quickly, and it added up really quickly. So it looked like a trouncing from the Pacers, and I give them a lot of credit. That second quarter was they dominated that second quarter, but my goodness, did we see a turnaround? The second half rolls around. It was at the end of the first half. It felt like that the Knicks just kept hanging around. The Pacers would hit a shot, they would knock down a shot, they would bloom the lead all the way back up to 16, 17 points, and then the Knicks would come down and hit a three or hit a two, and then get chippy again once again on the defensive end. It looked like they were just playing strong defense, the best that they could. And then whatever they got on offense, they would just take it and switch. They would focus on the defensive end of the ball, trying to make sure they could get as many stops as possible. And then on the offensive end, just try. Focus on the defense and let the offense come around. That looked like that's the philosophy the New York Knicks walked into the game with, the approach that they took. And honestly, it worked. It paid dividends because it worked, plain and simple. When you have Karl-Anthony Towns shooting the basketball the way he did in the second half, the way he was able to hit clutch shots down the stretch in the fourth quarter specifically, Jalen Brunson was phenomenal in this game. OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges. It was a phenomenal game all around. On the offensive end, I'd say, especially in the second half. There is one thing that we do need to talk about with this New York Knicks team, and I'm trying to think if I want to discuss it right now or if I want to bring it up later, because we do have another segment coming up about this series. I might save it. Actually, no, I'll touch on it now and I'll touch on it later. How about that? When you think about this New York Knicks team, you're thinking about an offense that is full of stars, star-studded offense. You're led by Jalen Brunson, anchored by Karl-Anthony Towns. You have Mikal Bridges. You have OG Anunoby. You have Josh Hart. You have a group of guys. Everywhere you look, you have star players. Pretty much you have that. That's what you look at when you see the Knicks offense. However, there is no excuse for the amount of. First of all, we have to talk about Jalen Brunson first when we talk about this. 5 fouls. How many did he foul out of this game? 5. Jalen Brunson had 4 fouls through the first half. In the first half, it was a big reason why the Pacers went on the run that they did, because Brunson wasn't on the court for much of the time, and every time he was on the court, Aaron Nesmith, Tyrese Halliburton, Andrew Nembhard were drawing offensive fouls on him. They were I've never seen Jalen Brunson play like that. And if you're the anchor of your team, if you're the star player on your team, you cannot be getting into foul trouble that quickly like this, because it puts your team in a handicap. They can't put you on the court. They want to save you for the later in the game. They want to you keep fouling. They have to put you on the bench. Tom Thibodeau has to sit you down. Has to put Miles McBride in. You're just a hindrance. It's plain and simple. That's what it is. And it was a big reason why, if you even look at Karl-Anthony Towns, funny enough, when you look at Karl-Anthony Towns, what was a big reason why the Timberwolves decided to walk away from him, to trade for Julius Randle in the offseason? Because he kept getting into foul trouble in the playoffs. And that was a big reason. He was having trouble guarding Jaren Jackson Jr., having trouble guarding against the Mavs. It was the big three that they had there with Jesus Christ, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, and PJ Washington. Sorry, my brain's blanking right now. That he had a big problem. Karl-Anthony Towns had a big issue with when it came to guarding all three of those guys last year, and he kept getting into foul trouble. When you see Jalen Brunson having 5 fouls in a game, how many did Cat have? Cat also had 5. Brunson had 5. OG Anunoby had 3. Mikal Bridges only had 2. But when you go down the line, there's a lot of players. When you get into foul trouble early and it's your star players, you fall into a deficit pretty quickly, and it has a substantial effect on the game. When you see what SGA had to go through in Minnesota 2 nights ago, and we'll discuss that in the next segment, it was a big reason why the Timberwolves won that game so decisively. That's a handicap that the Knicks put themselves in last night, and somehow they pulled themselves out. And it's going to be a big discussion of this game, but it was an incredible rally down the stretch. Even in the fourth quarter, the Knicks outscoring the Pacers 36-20. And yeah, it was a phenomenal game. But this is why I have 2 segments designed for these games now, because you have to. There's too much to talk about. These games are massive. Every game is important, and every game is so close. So we have a lot to discuss with both of these series happening at once. But I'm going to take a short break. Coming up next, we're going to switch gears over to the Western Conference Finals. Recap Game 3 between the Timberwolves and Thunder. What went wrong for the Thunder in Game 3? And can the Timberwolves keep it up? So we'll discuss both of those things in the next segment coming right up. You're watching the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting into our next segment here, we're going to switch gears over from the Eastern Conference Finals over to the West and discuss the Minnesota Timberwolves versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. A series that honestly, hopefully, we'll see a little bit of a competitive step up. Game 1 and Game 2 were pretty decisively taken by the Oklahoma City Thunder, both of those games. And then game 3 was just pretty much decisively taken by the Minnesota Timberwolves. Pretty much in all 3 games, the home team has won. And with that logic, let me hit the pause button and rewind. We're going to stay on game 3. Stick around game 3. Next segment, if you guys stick around for game 4 talk in this next segment coming up. But keeping our head focused on game 3. The Timberwolves blew out the Thunder in game 3. And honestly, what was really I'm serious when I say decisive win. I keep saying that, but that's the one. When I think of that game, that's the one thing that comes to mind. It was just an unbelievable decisive win for the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Timberwolves had no chance, the Thunder had no chance. The Timberwolves blew out the Thunder in this one by 40 points. And I mean it when I say 40 points. It was not close by any stretch of the imagination. 143-101 being the final score. And I'm being so serious. Once again, this was not a close game whatsoever. SGA probably having one of his worst playoff performances of the playoffs so far. Only 14 points in game 4. And honestly, we know what we expect from SGA these days. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, if you guys don't know who I'm talking about. He's already named the MVP of the regular season, of the 2025 regular season. He's renowned as one of the best players on the best team in the league, for the team that's favored to win the NBA championship. Do you guys realize that the Oklahoma City Thunder are being discussed? If you guys think about how the Celtics were being discussed last year, as they're the best team in the league, nobody can beat them. Nobody can beat this team 4 times out of 7 games. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. That's the same way people were talking about the Celtics. Tell me not. I know that even in the finals, you saw people saying that the Mavericks were going to trounce the Celtics. But even then, you knew that the Celtics were one of the best teams in the league. And outside of finals, nobody was going to beat them. That is the exact same way how people are talking about the Thunder right now. Seriously. So when we think of this Thunder team right now, they're just they play unbelievably well with one another. They're led by SGA. They have Jalen Williams. They have Chet Holmgren. Incredibly deep team. One of the deepest teams. The only team that's even in contention with them are the Indiana Pacers. They can go 6, 7, 8 guys deep that can go off for double-digit points. The problem is in this one, you had a bunch of guys that were hanging around the mid-range. Even SGA, 14 points, 6 assists, 2 rebounds in 28 minutes. And that minute reduction definitely had something to do with it. But at the same time, this game was over so quick, you did not even need to keep Shai in for even past the third quarter. I don't think he played any of the fourth quarter. When you lose the first quarter 34-14, yeah, you're having a bad day at work. It's going to be a bad day at work. The Timberwolves also won every single quarter of this game. Every single quarter they won the scoring. They were in the scoring advantage. Even the fourth, when they were up by 40 points. So this was an incredibly decisive win. This is an incredible game from the Minnesota Timberwolves. If we look all around, you see Anthony Edwards at 30 points, Julius Randle with 24. Excuse me. You have 7 guys that get into double figures for you in the scoring category for the Minnesota Timberwolves. You have 2 guys that go over 20 points. There's nothing to say but incredible performance from the Timberwolves. It really was. All around, nobody was beating the Timberwolves on Saturday night. Nobody. I don't think the Knicks, maybe the Pacers could on a good day, but even then, basically game 3 of this series, if you guys can think back, go blast in the past to the first round of these playoffs, in game 1 against the Lakers, what was the one thing that we pointed out about that game that pretty much gave the win, or that solidified the win for the Timberwolves? Their shooting. If you guys go back into that one, if you look up the stats, the Timberwolves shot 50% or more from 3-point range in that one. I don't know if it was exactly, I know it was 50% or more. I don't know if it's exactly 50%. But game 3 in this one was exactly 50% from 3. 20 of 40 from 3. You didn't turn off the the Thunder turning the ball over much more, shooting the ball much more inefficiently from 3. Putting up, frankly, more threes than the Timberwolves. And honestly, you have to in those standpoints. The only way to kill a deficit when you're down by 20 points in the first quarter, when you're down by 30 going into halftime, the only way to cut leads like that is to shoot the 3 ball. You have to shoot it, and you have to try and get hot from 3-point range. It's the only way to give your chance any sort of lifeline to stay afloat. And that's what the Thunder tried to do. It was just a little too late for them, unfortunately. But yeah, turning the ball over much less, shooting the 3 ball much more efficiently, shooting frankly from the field, shooting 57% from the field, 50% from 3. Just all around, they played a phenomenal game. Points in the paint, turnovers, steals, winning assists, every category you guys can think of. The Timberwolves dominated every single one. And it was a big reason. That is why they won this game. It was probably the problem is we're probably never going to see a performance like this from the Timberwolves to this extent. This was domination at its essence. When you guys think of game 2, like between the Nuggets and the Thunder, and even in the last round when the Thunder came out and smacked the Nuggets by 40, it was just uncomfortable to watch. It was an all-around dominant performance. The Thunder did not let up in that game 2 against the Nuggets, in the same way the Timberwolves didn't let up in this game 3. And yeah, this was just a phenomenal performance all around. You can't ask from a better you cannot ask for a better performance from the Minnesota Timberwolves in this one. And I'll go down the line again. Anthony Edwards, 30 points. Julius Randle, 24 points. Terrence Shannon Jr., this kid off the bench, I don't think he plays a lot of minutes. He must have been, I'm going to take a wild guess and say the last 2 guys, Shannon Jr. and Leonard Miller, I don't know exactly who they are, but they're most likely guys that came off the bench in the fourth quarter and played a lot of minutes because they played 8 to 15 minutes in this game. But Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a great player. Naz Reid hit some big shots in this one, and he's starting to figure it out offensively for the Timberwolves. If he can get his offense going, he can be a big piece for this Minnesota Timberwolves team, and he can win you games. He really can. Naz Reid can win you games. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, not alone, but can still win you games. Jaden McDaniels, 10 points in this one. He's still continuing to play at a high level on the offensive end, still contributing offensively for this team. Jaden McDaniels is probably honestly the biggest unsung hero for this Timberwolves squad. You have Julius Randle, who's getting a lot of love right now, being labeled as playoff Randle this year. Anthony Edwards obviously speaks for himself. Rudy Gobert, one of the all-time best defensive players in the league right now, anchoring that defense. Mike Conley speaks for himself. He's been in the league forever. Naz Reid, 6th man of the year. Do you see what I'm saying? You have a bunch of guys on this team. These are all guys that these are guys' names that we bring up before we even bring up Jaden McDaniels. Why? Because Jaden McDaniels is bursting on the scene right now. Over the last couple years, he's continued to grow and grow as a defensive player. And not only defensively, but his offense has kind of started to nudge up with it. We've seen him with 25-point games, 30-point playoff performances. And he really has been the unsung hero for this Timberwolves team. In game 3, it was one of his quieter games, but we've seen, I think it was either game 1 or game 2 when Jaden McDaniels even went off for 30 points in one, or 20, I believe 24 points in one of those 2 games. I don't remember exactly which one, but I know it was in one of those 2 games he did. But yeah, if this team can continue to corral around one another, grow around one another, continue to play at a high level, I think they really could be one of the best teams in the league. I really think so. They still are, and I think they still have an opportunity in this series. And that's exactly where we're going with this conversation. There's a big reason why I said at the beginning of this show when I wanted to discuss Game 4, I said put a pause, pump the brakes a little bit. We got to stay on Game 3. We got to stay on recapping this series, because coming up next, we're switching gears over to the previewing side. How can the Timberwolves win Game 4, and who needs to have a bigger Game 4 in this one? Is it SGA? Is it Anthony Edwards? Who needs a win more? Is it the Oklahoma City Thunder, or is it the Minnesota Timberwolves to even this series at 2 games apiece? We'll discuss all of that in the next segment coming right up. You're watching the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting into our next segment here, we discussed the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Thunder. In Game 3 of this series. We discussed Pacers and Knicks Game 3. We recapped that to start off the show, and we'll get back to that in this show later on in the show. But getting into our next segment here, we're switching gears over to Game 4 of this series, because this is honestly one of the biggest games. I've said it many times already throughout these playoffs, but this is one of those monumental games. This is one of those games that changes the course of series. The Thunder win. They go up 3-1. They put the Timberwolves on the brink of elimination. If the Timberwolves win, you force a Game 5 back in Oklahoma City, tying this series up at 2-2 apiece and 2 games apiece, and make it a best of 3. And Game 5 in OKC becomes even bigger than this one. So, yeah, basically, this is a crucial game for both of these teams. But who needs it more? That's what we're going to be discussing in this segment. But before we move any further, I'd like to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC Sports Network content. Also, we get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show. So to ensure that your question gets read on air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net. This puts your question at the top of the list so that I see it. It also really helps out the show. Again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net for all your questions and comments. And like I've said before, you guys are a big part of what we do here at the GSMC Sports Network. So please remember to leave a comment, leave a question, anything that you guys want me to give my opinion on, or any questions that you guys have for me to answer. Feel free to leave them in the chat. And it honestly makes the show much more interactive. So we appreciate anything that you guys have to say, or any questions, anything at all. We greatly appreciate that. And we'll see all of them in the chat right here if you leave your comment or question right there. But let's get right back into the action here, because that's enough talking about the chat. You guys know what to do. You guys know what to do. But let's get right back into it here. This is the Thunder. This is the Oklahoma City Thunder, the best team in the league. This is the Minnesota Timberwolves, probably one of the most shocking teams in the NBA playoffs so far. Not a lot of people expected them to make it back to their second straight Western Conference Finals. A lot of people had them losing to the Lakers. I was one of them. A lot of people had them losing to the Warriors. I was one of them. Even though I wouldn't pick the Warriors without Steph Curry over them. I was one of them. And now we have them in the conference finals, the Western Conference Finals, for the second year in a row. Going up against the best team in the league. Going up against the team that's kind of been the team that's burst onto the scene, led by SGA, a young, scrappy just young, scrappy team, deep team, just an unbelievable team in general in the Oklahoma City Thunder. And we discussed game 3. We discussed game 3 in the previous segment. So if you guys got to rewind that, feel free. Or if you guys want to just catch up with it later on when this is posted, we also can do that. Just a quick recap: the Thunder lost game 3 to the Timberwolves pretty decisively. Timberwolves blew them out in game 3, and yeah, pretty much this is a game that the Thunder need to bounce back in, regardless of the outcome. If you see another blowout from the Timberwolves tonight in game 4, expect the Timberwolves to come out and win this series. That's pretty much the message that's going to be sent to anybody watching the game. It's going to send the message that the Thunder are still too young. Their SGA still needs help around them. They still need to get another star. This team is not built for the moment. This, that, and the other. And I've been one of those people. I've been one of those people all playoffs long that said the Thunder are too young. They need more time to grow and mesh with one another. They need another piece to back up SGA when he's having a tough time shooting the basketball, because Jalen Williams is not at that caliber yet to fully trust him. Chet Holmgren's not there yet. Isaiah Joe, Alex Caruso. You have a bunch of great role players, but you don't have enough stars to carry that offense, to let those role players blossom around you. So it's like having a dinner without having the entree. You have a great appetizer. You have a bunch of great side dishes, a great dessert. Sorry about that. That scared me too. But you don't have the entree. That's what it feels like the Thunder are missing. You have SGA, but you need more to pair with him to give the Thunder the best chance that they have to win the finals. But, and I say but, because they've been pleasantly surprising me all playoffs long. They surprised me against they surprised me against the Grizzlies with how well they played in that series. They surprised me against the Nuggets, how they even came back. They fought adversity. It looked like the Nuggets were going to win that series, and they came out in game 7 and gave the Nuggets no chance to win game 7. This is pretty much one of those games. You have to just take the bull by the horns, and it can't be your fault while they lose. If Anthony Edwards goes off for 45 points, Julius Randle goes off for 30 points, and the rest of the team has a phenomenal game, that is one thing. That is one thing, and if that happens, nothing to say if you're the Oklahoma City Thunder, because it's not your fault. You played the best that you could, and you lost to Squeaker, and now it's going to Game 5 in Oklahoma City, and it's still a toss-up series. However, if the Thunder lose decisively tonight, the Timberwolves get a major, major momentum boost. If the Timberwolves lose decisively tonight, the Thunder are going to look to close out the series in Game 5 on their home floor in OKC. So, who needs to win more tonight? Obviously, it's going to be the Timberwolves to kind of try and to extend this series to a Game 6. To make it 2-2, going back to OKC, to put the pressure back on OKC. But OKC's still in it. And OKC has just as much of an argument on who needs to win the game more, because this would be their first time making the NBA Finals since the year with Kevin Durant in 2014, when they got swept by the Miami Heat. This is a Thunder team led by SGA, an incredibly young core in OKC that's looking to win their first championship, trying to make their first NBA Finals as a group at the very least. Both these teams trying to do the same thing, funny enough. But, yeah, in this game, it comes down to the Minnesota Timberwolves, in my opinion. It comes down to the play of Minnesota. It comes down to the defense of the Thunder. It comes down to how the Thunder respond in this game after getting punched in the mouth in Game 3. Are they going to come back? Are they going to come back out and wilt over? I don't expect that. That's not the Thunder team that we've seen all playoff long. And we know from the Timberwolves what to expect from them. They will be ready to go in this game. If there's one thing I can promise you guys, as if you guys are going to watch this game tonight, and if any of you guys are Timberwolves or Thunder fans, expect fireworks in this one. Expect physicality, expect a close game, because both of these Both of these teams are going to come out like they got shot out of a cannon. Timberwolves have a lot of momentum, have a lot of hope, a lot of reborn hope. The Thunder have a little bit of disdain. That game 3 put a foul taste in their mouth, getting blown out by 40 points. They're going to come out looking like they have something to prove. They will be ready to go in this game 4. But I think it comes down to the play of the stars. I really do. It comes down to Ant-Man versus SGA. It comes down to Julius Randle versus Jalen Williams. It comes down to the rest of the role players on both teams. As much as we want to say the Thunder are deep, this is the difference between this series and the Knicks and Pacers series is the Timberwolves somehow, some way, in a way that we had no idea possible. What was the one thing that we lamented about throughout the regular season? And I'm going to take a little bit of a step back so you guys can see me a little bit better. But what is the one thing that we lamented about the Minnesota Timberwolves when we were going throughout the regular season? We said, Anthony Edwards is phenomenal. He's continuing to grow. Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle are growing their chemistry late in the season, but this is something that's new. It's not something that we've seen for a while now. It's something that they've kind of grown on the fly here. And that they have a great young core around them with Naz Reid, Jaden McDaniels, whatnot. The one thing that we can say that the Knicks don't have that the Timberwolves have is that they can match up with the depths. They can match up with the Thunder's depth. Somehow, someway. I'm not saying they can consistently do it. I'm not saying that their depth is better than the Thunder. No. If I had to pick a depth, I'm picking the Thunder every single time. But I'd be lying if I said that the Timberwolves had no chance. They have more star players. They have more experienced players. They've been in these situations more often. Naz Reid is a sixth man of the year. Anthony Edwards is obviously star player. We're not talking about the star players. Naz Reid, Nickeil Alexander-Walker's hit big shots in the playoffs before. He's been in the playoffs for many years now. Mike Conley's been in the league forever. He's a seasoned veteran. You have Jaden McDaniels, who's just burst onto the scene, who's gaining experience as we've on the fly here. And honestly, this might be crazy to say, but there is a world where we can group up the Jaden McDaniels, the Austin Reeves, the Jalen Williams, and group them up and put them all in the same pool, in the same category. Because they're all just like one of those role players that's looking to get into the 2 or 3 option range. Number 2, number 3 option to be a part of a big 3. They're in that range, but they're not there yet. They're gaining experience. So I think the Timberwolves, honestly, in a way, match up with the Thunder much more than probably any other team that the Thunder have faced so far in the playoffs. But I'm still picking the Thunder's depth. I think it comes down to the star players. I think the star players on Minnesota have an advantage over OKC, but I think OKC's depth has an advantage over Minnesota, if that makes sense. There's a lot of canceling out factors, and that's why the series is honestly, when you look at it on paper, it's supposed to be much closer than it is right now. 2-1 is still close, but we wouldn't expect the blowout that we saw in Game 3. We didn't expect the blowout that we saw, in Game 1. I think Game 2 was a little bit closer. I'm trying to remember. I don't know why I can't remember right now off the top of my head. But these are teams that are going to continue to go to war with one another. Game 1 was a blowout. Game 2 was a 15-point win. I remember the Timberwolves tried to climb back into that one late in the game, cutting the lead to under 10 points. But it was honestly the Thunder, when they get a lead, if you want to beat the Thunder, you have to keep the game close throughout the fourth quarter. And honestly, you have to treat the Thunder like you used to treat the Warriors, because the Thunder have a great group of closers. That is the one thing that we have to say about them. They know how to close games. If it's a close game in the fourth quarter, you better hope you have the lead, and you cannot give it up. Just ask the Nuggets how they played in Game 4 and Game 5, being outscored 62-38 in both of those games at the end of Game 4 and Game 5 in the fourth quarters of both of those games. That is what we're talking about here. That is the Thunder team that we're talking about. And as inexperienced, as young as they are, they still have, for whatever reason, it's just, it has to be the personality, the culture that's been built over there, the confidence that everybody has in one another. But the way that they're able to close games is something that a lot of teams out there in the NBA cannot do outside of the Thunder. Outside of the Thunder's expertise, they can't do it. It's tried to be replicated before, but it's never happened. So, if you're the Timberwolves, keep the game close and try to go into the fourth quarter with a lead. Because if you're down in the game, like if you're down in the way you were in game 1 and game 2, you're looking at a 3-1 deficit. Most likely. It's not 100% obviously, but most likely. So, yeah. I think this game's going to be close regardless, though. I would be shocked if we saw a game that's dominated by either the Thunder or the Timberwolves. I think we're in for a great game tonight. And honestly, I still think this is going to be one of the best games of the playoffs. But I'm going to leave it there. This segment has dragged on a little bit longer than I expected it to, so I'm going to put a pin in it there, and we'll come back tomorrow for more discussion on this series. But coming up next, that's not the end of the show. I hope I didn't get you guys to start clicking off yet. But I'm going to take a short break. Coming up next, we're going to switch gears back over to the Eastern Conference Finals. Is there cause to pause for the Pacers after their loss last night? We'll discuss everything in that game, and we'll discuss both of these teams, how they've been playing throughout this series, and give a little bit of a preview for tonight's massive Game 4. Because let's say the Knicks can win Game 4 and can tie the series up at 2-2 apiece. We'll discuss that in the next segment coming right up. You're watching the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting into our next segment here, we're going to switch gears back over to the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm sorry I keep hitting the switcheroo. Let's go this way, then go that way, and then let's go back the other way. It's something I like to do. I like to spice it up a little bit, so I've been trying to do that. If you guys don't like that, please let me know in the comments, and we'll do a little bit better with the organization. It's just something I've been working around with. Or playing around with, I should say, with how I've been building the shows. But when we're discussing this series, we have to it's hard not to think about how the Pacers have been dominating this series. It's felt like so if we go through it, there's been 3 games, there's been 6 halves in this series. It feels like 4 out of the 6 halves of this series have been dominated by the Pacers. First, and funny enough, the first half of Game 1 goes to the Knicks. The second half of Game 1 all the way to the first half of Game 3 all goes to the Pacers. And then second half of Game 3 goes to the Knicks. There have been little, this is why each game has been so close. And every game has mattered in this series because it's always come down to the last play of regulation, the last play of overtime, a simple play before the end of a last little bit of momentum, a bucket here, a bucket there. That's meant the difference for both of these teams in this series. But when we're talking about last night's loss for the Indiana Pacers, does it give you some cause to pause? I'd say yes in a way. And let me explain why. I know the Pacers are incredibly deep, and I know that this series, the longer it goes, the more it plays in the favor of the Indiana Pacers. And I know Karl-Anthony Towns hit some crazy shots last night. Do not get me wrong. Falling away, getting fouled on 3-point shots from way outside, from 30 feet out, being able to hit threes like that off off your back foot, getting fouled, falling to the ground, not once, not twice, 3 times. I'm pretty sure he did it 3 times, at least 3 times. It's just, you never expect that. And honestly, sometimes you have to just give the luck of the shot to the New York Knicks. But when you're the Pacers and you jump out to a lead like that, you play phenomenal defense the way you did in the second quarter, the way you did in the first half as a whole. Second half to play the way that you did, to collapse in the fourth quarter the way that you did, giving up a 16-point lead in the fourth quarter. And maybe that's just the youth of the Indiana Pacers that's still showing, because at the end of the day, this is still the second playoff run this Indiana Pacers group has been in. This is obviously the most success that they've had in the playoffs in years. But I think last night absolutely gives you cause to pause if you're the Pacers. It shows why you can't get comfortable with this Knicks team, why you can't give the Knicks any room to breathe, because the Knicks are a group. You may say that the Knicks got lucky against the Celtics, but there's one thing that you have to lament about them. It's just unfair if you don't say. The way this team has bounced back from adversity, the way the shot makers on this team, the way that OG Anunoby has stepped up, the way that Karl Anthony Towns has shot the ball all playoffs long, the way Jalen Brunson has played throughout these playoffs. I know last night was not Jalen Brunson's best performance, but we saw a 45-point performance in Game 1. We saw 40 points from Karl Anthony Towns in Game 1. We saw 25 and 25 from Cat last night. We've seen games where Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, and OG Anunoby all go off for 20-plus points. That is when the New York Knicks are at their best. And the biggest thing that I've noticed from this Knicks team is they've found different ways to win games. Whether it's a team game, whether it's more star-studded games, whether it's more individual play, one guy gets hot and the rest of the guys start feeding him the ball or try to scheme him open. There are ways. The Knicks have found ways to win games in these playoffs, and it's the one thing that I'd say a lot that separates them from the rest of the league, I'd say. It's the one thing that I've noticed from them that a lot of teams are not doing. A lot of other teams, the Timberwolves built on bully ball. The Thunder built on their depth. The Pacers built on speed and depth. But the Knicks, for whatever reason, they've been able to just go with the flow of things and just keep playing basketball. Keep playing as a group with one another. And I think that goes to coaching. The way that the coaching staff is able to adjust to styles of games is a major, major aspect of the series. So I think we have to give Tom Thibodeau credit where credit is due. And it's something that's been discussed on this show before. Is this Tom Thibodeau's possibly last season with the New York Knicks? Did Game 1 solidify that this was going to be Tom Thibodeau's last season with the Knicks? And honestly, there is a world where Tom Thibodeau now comes back the way he's been able to bring this team as far as he's brought them. I know it's still early. We're still on Game 4 of this series. It's 2-1 series. And they still have to win another game before we can fully say that the Knicks are back in this series. I still think the Pacers are going to win this series decisively. I think the series is still going to end in 5-6 games max. And I don't think it's going to be close. I thought that the Knicks would win Game 4 and then possibly Game 5. Game 3 kind of switches everything a little bit because I didn't expect them to win Game 3. But with this win, it gives them an opportunity. It definitely gives them a chance. And if you're the Pacers, you can't take this lightly. This is the Eastern Conference Finals. This is a moment for a young team. This is a defining moment for the Indiana Pacers. If the Indiana Pacers are a young team, the same way if you guys can think back to Game 7 between the Thunder and Nuggets. Game 7 between, that series. Even Game 4 and Game 5 in that series as well. The way that those games were deciding moments for the Thunder in a way. This is the same fashion for the Pacers. Pacers, are you going to step up to step up to the plate? Are you going to answer the call? Or are you just going to wilt away? Plain and simple. Are you just going to wilt away and let the Knicks just hand it to you? Just give you another loss and force a Game 6 back in Indiana. Make Game 5 a must-win game for you. Because I promise you, if the Knicks go up 3-2 and win 3 games in a row, this series is over in favor of New York. That's what I'm saying. That last night's loss was pretty bad for especially the way that the Pacers played. It's a little bit of a deflating loss because the Pacers played their heart out in that second quarter and collapsed in the fourth. But I'm still giving them the edge in this series. I think that the Pacers still have the edge. I still think that they are the team to beat in the Eastern Conference. And I think that they will be. They will be until these playoffs are over, I think. Until they lose, until somebody can beat them decisively 4 out of 7 times, I don't think you can count them out. Even if it's 3-2, I'm not 100% counting out the Pacers, but I'm still, you know what I'm saying. I know you guys know what I'm saying. But when we're discussing the series, we have to give the Pacers credit where credit is due. That's all I'm saying. And we have to give the Knicks credit where credit is due throughout these playoffs, because this has been a different Knicks team that we've seen all regular season long. This is probably the best New York Knicks team I've seen play basketball in the playoffs, maybe ever, because I'm 22 years old. I've only seen them from 2003 when I was born to now. And even then, what's the best version of the Knicks that we've seen? Carmelo Anthony. This is their first conference finals in 25 years. That was before I was born. So, that's all I have to say. I'm doubting the Knicks because I haven't seen an insane Knicks team in my lifetime. I've seen video of them from back in the day with Patrick Ewing going up against Jordan. I've seen videos of Walt Frazier and Downtown Freddie Brown back in the day in the 70s. There are videos of those out there, but that's not real life. That is not what we're seeing right now. This is why I said this is the Knicks' best opportunity since 1971 to win a finals. I said it before this series started. There's still a clip of it on YouTube somewhere on this page. But yeah, this is about the New York Knicks. This is about the Indiana Pacers Game 4. And yes, the Pacers have to come out and win Game 4 like it's a must-win game, or else you're in a world of trouble going back to New York, because New York will be ready to go. New York, Madison Square Garden would be so unbelievably loud for Game 5 if this was a 2-2 series going back to New York. I don't even want to imagine it. So, we'll see how this series goes, but that's all my take on it. And this segment also dragged on a little bit. I apologize for that. But I'm going to take one last short break. Coming up next, this is my segment of the show where I switch gears off of the playoffs and I either go off season or I go another league, college basketball, WNBA, something like that. This time around, we're staying in the theme of the off season. We're going to discuss the Boston Celtics situation right now. Jaylen Brown still considering getting off-season knee surgery on his partially torn ACL when he ended the regular season or ended the playoffs with a partially torn ACL. It was a big reason why we didn't know at the time, but there were reports that Jaylen Brown was getting treatment on his knees before the playoffs to kind of strengthen that knee up. But yeah, he didn't play the end of the regular season. He got that treatment, and now it's being announced that he has partially torn ACL. We'll discuss what's next for him as well as the rest of the team in general. Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, etc. with the offseason that's set up for the Boston Celtics. But you're watching the GSMC Basketball Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting into our last segment here, we're going to switch gears off of the NBA playoffs for a second. This is the problem. Well, it's not a problem, but this is how we've been doing the shows lately. For you guys to pull the curtain back a little bit. We keep loving to do the NBA playoffs because obviously that's the way to go right now. But with this time period, there's no college basketball in the fray yet. We haven't gone into NBA draft talks yet. The NBA offseason starting to mesh with the NBA playoffs, but it's not in full swing yet. We haven't heard. We're still focused on the playoffs. So we're in this little gray area where we're talking about the final four teams of the conference finals of the NBA, waiting to find out who's going to the NBA finals, but we haven't heard the other swings yet. And those will be coming out in the next couple weeks. So I'll have more news on those as they get released to all of us here. But for now, we got to keep going with the flow. This is Jaylen Brown. In this segment, we're going to talk about the Boston Celtics. And I've mentioned it before on the show. I am a Celtics fan, but I like to keep it non-biased. I like to keep it clear. I like to keep it regular. If you guys have any questions about what I'm talking about, if I'm being too biased, please let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think. But when we're discussing this segment, I think the biggest, outside of Jason Tatum's injury, the biggest question mark of this offseason is going to be Jaylen Brown now. For those that didn't know, Jaylen Brown, before the regular season ended, was not sat down, but was rested a lot before the playoffs. And we didn't know why. It was just listed as a knee, but we didn't know exactly what it was. We didn't know if it was a bone bruise or some type of tendonitis or whatnot. We didn't know exactly what it was. Before the playoffs happened, it's reported that Jaylen Brown gets treatment on his knees to try and strengthen his knees before the playoffs. Everybody in Boston, you can ask anybody, including myself. Excuse me. Sorry. But all of us sitting there saying, oh, what's going on with Jaylen Brown? Is Jaylen Brown going to be okay? He's a big part of this team. He's a big part of the offense. This, that, and the third. Everybody in uproar wondering what's going on with Jaylen Brown. We see him struggle a little bit throughout the playoffs. We saw he had a big game in Game 5. Was it Game 5? Yes. It was Game 5, back in Boston. Yeah. When he had a big game, when he had a double-double in that game, which just further proves my point. But we said, okay, Jaylen Brown's okay. He's gonna be okay. But obviously past that, after that Game 6, it was reported that Jaylen Brown had a partially torn ACL in his right knee and was considering surgery. And if he did, it would put him out of the season. It would probably sit him out of the 2026 NBA season, unfortunately. So that's where we are now. And when you're looking at Jaylen Brown, you're looking at a player who's still growing as a talent in this league. He's still going to be he's growing in the league to be one of the best players in the league. He's still in that threshold. However, and I say however, there have also been a lot of noise from front office, from ownership that said that's looking to cut the cost of the starting lineup. Obviously, this lineup is worth nearly $1 billion right now, including the luxury tax apron, because the luxury tax apron is about half a billion dollars, and I believe the starting lineup's about 600 million. No, it's 700 million plus about 200 million of luxury tax. That puts in perspective about just how expensive this starting lineup is for the Boston Celtics at the moment. But with Jaylen Brown considering surgery, with the Celtics possibly being on the brink or possibly already looking to trade Porzingis and Jrue Holiday, those two guys have already been reported as two major trade aspects. But Jaylen Brown possibly now entering that conversation. What's next for him? What's next for the star player of Boston? with Jason Tatum. It's supposed to be Jason Tatum's Robin. It's supposed to be sometimes Jason Tatum is Robin when Jaylen Brown is Batman. If you guys understand what I'm saying. I apologize. Somebody just walked by my door. But yeah, when I'm thinking about Jaylen Brown here, I'm thinking about one of the best players in the league. And I honestly have no idea what to expect. I'm split on what to expect here from the Celtics. I could see him getting traded. As sad of a day as that would be, I can see him getting traded. But I could also see us hanging on to both Tatum and Brown, and just rolling the dice on their health. Just saying that the advancements of the NBA training department and nutrition department will get these guys back and in their prime selves when they come back on the court. But this is a Jaylen Brown that's Jaylen Brown side of things. And if he gets his surgery, like I said, he'll be out most likely for the rest of next season. At the very least, he'll be back in like February or March. But even then, what's the point of coming back at that point? It's the same situation with Jason Tatum. But with both of those guys out, what do you expect from these Celtics, from the rest of the Celtics offseason plans? Do you package Brown, Porzingis, and Jrue Holiday up as a three-piece package? Maybe add some draft picks and go after a Giannis, go after a KD? Is that something that they try to re-explore? We saw Kevin Durant was in not trade talks, but the Celtics were looking to acquire Kevin Durant once upon a time from the Brooklyn Nets. Do they go down that route once again? Do they go down the route of Giannis Antetokounmpo, who said he wants to stay in the Eastern Conference and move to a bigger market? What exactly transpires in Boston coming up next for them in this offseason? And that's the biggest question mark. I think Porzingis gets traded to a center needy team like the Lakers possibly. I think the Lakers are 100% in contention for Porzingis. I think Jrue Holiday is possibly in contention if they want to bring back possibly a Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart's name has been linked back with the Celtics over the last couple of weeks, even though that is a little bit of a Celtics take, so take that with a grain of salt. But the Kings have been interested in Jrue Holiday, so there have been a lot of teams out there that have been interested in Celtics players. But when we look at the Celtics right now, they are definitely going to be looking at cost cutting out some of that ample cost, cutting out some of those max contracts so they can open the door to some new talent. I think Jason Tatum, I think Derek White, and I hope Jaylen Brown are the three untouchables for the Celtics offense, or for the Celtics young core. But with Jaylen Brown possibly getting traded, with Porzingis and Jrue Holiday, those are the three names right now that are being tossed around as possible changes or possible teams that will most likely be moved in the offseason. That's just all that I know right now, and that's all that's been reported. But as soon as we get more information, I'll be right back here to be the one that's reporting it. Either it's going to be at that moment as breaking news, or I'll be here the next day to report whatever news comes out about these Celtics. But yeah, I mean, that's all we got for the show today. I wish there was more to talk about. It's kind of a quieter day. The problem is with this time of year, it's just the conference finals, and then there's not much to talk about after that. You kind of just go with the flow of what the recent current event trends are right now in the news, and we give our takes and predictions for it. It's a lot of question marks going around the NBA right now. And right now, the biggest question mark that we got to focus on is who's going to be reaching the NBA Finals this year. That's the most important thing, and that's what we're looking at. Tonight, we got Game 4 between the Thunder and Timberwolves, and I hope you guys have your popcorns ready because this is going to be a phenomenal game tonight. I seriously believe it's going to be one of the best games of the playoffs, and I cannot wait for it to get started. I'll be right back here tomorrow at 9 a.m. as well to recap that game. But thank you guys for watching the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to leave a positive review in the comments below. Whether it's positive, whether it's negative, let us know what we're doing well here. Let us know what we can improve upon. Let us know how we can improve our content for you guys, and let us know if you guys want to hear different content or more of a different subject. Let us know what you guys want to hear more of, and we'll be sure to make sure we'll tackle more of that in future shows. If you guys have any comments, questions, or takes for me to answer in the comments below about what I've said here in this show, please be sure to leave a comment below, and I'll make sure to answer those either in the comments below, or I might even make my own segment and in the next show tomorrow, and we'll discuss that. But yeah, for more content and updates, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning into the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi, signing off. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Monday afternoons. Bye-bye.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna